Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in homework, studying all the time, but your grades just don't seem to show it? Well, what if I told you there's a way to get better results by actually studying less? Yeah, you heard me. Today, we're going to crack the code on a super powerful technique that will help you study smarter, not harder.
This quote right here from a university student, it probably hits pretty close to home for a lot of you. It's that nagging feeling of guilt you get when you're not buried in a textbook, right? The idea that every single hour has to be spent working. But as this student found out, that mindset is often the very thing that's holding you back.
In fact, it's what leads to this thing called the burnout cycle. It goes like this. You study more and more, which, let's be honest, makes you start to hate the subject. And when you hate what you're doing, your brain just doesn't work as well. Your studying gets way less productive. So what happens? You have to spend even more time on it. It's a totally vicious cycle that leaves you feeling completely exhausted and just stuck.
But what if you could just smash that cycle? What if there was a kind of secret code, a proven principle that could flip that whole thing on its head and give you way better results for like a fraction of the effort?
Well, there is. It's called the 80-20 rule, or, for you fancy folks, the Pareto Principle. And listen, this is not just another study hack you see online. This is a proven law of productivity that can literally change how you approach not just school, but your whole life. So what is it exactly? Well, it was named after this Italian economist, Vilfredo Pareto. Way back in the 1890s, he noticed something kind of weird. About 80% of the land in Italy was owned by only 20% of the people. And then he started seeing this imbalance everywhere, where a small chunk of causes leads to a huge chunk of the results. And I mean, it is everywhere. Pareto even saw it in his garden. 20% of his pea pods were making 80% of his peas. It applies to wealth, it applies to your closet. Think about it. You probably wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. Even tech companies know this. Microsoft found that fixing just the top 20% of reported bugs got rid of 80% of computer crashes. It's a pattern that just keeps showing up. Okay, so what in the world does this mean for you? It means this same rule applies directly to your studies. Roughly 20% of what you're learning, the big ideas, the core concepts, is responsible for about 80% of your final grade. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to find that critical 20%. All right, now before you just run off and start throwing away 80% of your notes, we gotta cover a few rules of the rule. Let's clear up some myths so you use this the right way. First off, this is not about being lazy. It is about being effective and super strategic with your time and energy. Second, don't get obsessed with the numbers. It's not always exactly 80-20. It could be 70-30 or 90-10. The key thing to remember is the imbalance. And finally, you don't just ignore the other 80% of the material. You simply prioritize the critical 20% and give it most of your focus. Okay, so how do you actually do this? How do you figure out what that vital 20% even is? Don't worry, I got you. Here's your simple 4-step playbook. First, you're going to become a detective. Hunt down past exam papers. You see those topics that show up again and again? That's your treasure map. Next, check your syllabus or module guide. Your teachers literally give you the cheat codes by listing the key learning outcomes. Then follow the points. Look at the marking scheme. Where are the most marks coming from? And finally, find the cornerstone idea. What is the one concept that if you took it away, the whole subject would just fall apart? That's your 20%. But hey, listen up. This is important. Finding that 20% is only half the battle. You can't just stare at the page and hope it sticks. To really learn this stuff, you have to get your hands dirty and study it actively. So what does that look like? Try explaining a really complex idea out loud, but in your own simple words. Or even better, try to teach it to a friend. Seriously, if you can teach it, you know it. Make some mind maps or one-page summaries. And if you're in math or science, you have to do practice problems without peeking at the solution first. That's how you really lock it in. Still not totally convinced? Okay, let's look at a really cool real-world example from a university study that proves just how powerful this is. So these researchers wanted to help students become better writers, but they knew they couldn't fix every single mistake. So what they do? They analyzed thousands of student essays to find the vital few, the 20% of errors that were causing 80% of the problems. And what they found was pretty amazing. Out of 22 different types of writing mistakes, just 3 of them made up most of the problems: being too wordy, messing up commas, and using something called the passive voice. Think about that for a second. Just 3 little things were the cause of most of the issues in thousands of papers. And here's what that looks like. Take a look at that first really tall bar. That's the massive impact of those vital few errors. Just 3 types of mistakes were causing almost 80% of all the writing problems. Now look at that second tiny bar. The other 17 plus error types all combined, they barely made a dent. By focusing all their effort on that tall bar, students could get a huge improvement for a tiny, focused effort. Because at the end of the day, this isn't really just about making studying a bit more efficient or getting slightly better grades. The real payoff, the real prize, is something so much more valuable. Let's go back to that student we started with. After they started using the 80-20 rule, this was their new reality. Yeah, their grades improved, but look what else they said. They had time. Time for hobbies, for friends, for just relaxing. All the stuff they had to give up before. So you see, the true goal of studying smarter isn't just about what's on your report card. It's so much bigger than that. It's about getting your time back. Time is the one thing we can never make more of, right? And this principle is the key to unlocking more of it. It's about shifting your mindset from measuring how busy you are to measuring how effective you are. This is about breaking free from that burnout cycle for good. It's about less stress, enjoying what you're learning again, and actually having a balanced life where school is an important part, but it's not the only part. Plain and simple, this is about getting your life back. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. Looking at your classes right now, what is the one topic, the one concept, or the one skill you can focus on this week that will deliver 80% of your results? Find it. Focus on it. You can totally do this.